Welcome to this edition of Focus. Focus is our show that we share with our community about what's going on in your Huron Valley Schools. Today we have a very important topic, and we have with us one of our resident experts. We're going to be talking about bullyproofing today, and we have with us Jill McDonald, who is the principal at Oxbow Elementary. Jill has also been with us at one of our middle schools and also one of our high schools, and she also took a 2-year sabbatical and wrote a book on bullyproofing schools. And so we would like to talk with her today about this important topic. Jill, why is it important to focus on bullyproofing? Isn't it just something that kids learn to deal with as they grow up?
Well, it's our goal to create safe and caring school community. And there are deliberate efforts that need to be put into that in order for that to happen. It doesn't just happen based on some good intentions. And our job is to create safe and caring places for our students to grow and to learn. And in order for them to feel comfortable and to feel comfortable to take learning risks, which is what we need them to do and want them to do, we need to focus on creating that caring school community.
Now, I've heard that bullying takes different forms. I mean, it used to be, knock you down, take your lunch money. But now I understand that teasing or other things could be considered bullying, and people may not even realize they're engaging in those behaviors. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, bullying is an imbalance of power, rather. And they are, negative effects that happen to somebody, intentional negative effects. To hurt or harm somebody, to embarrass them, to upset them. That's sort of the definition of what is bullying. There are a lot of different forms of bullying and harassment, and it looks different at the elementary level, from the middle school level, from the high school level. Obviously, there are forms at the high school level that are not really typical to see in elementary school. Particularly cyberbullying kinds of behaviors and things that maybe you and I, just a few years back when we were in school, were not there. Cyberbullying with texting and with emails and with the website and different, Facebook and different kinds of things. There are forms of bullying and harassment that happen that kids are really particularly vulnerable to. And, it tends to start at the upper elementary to middle school ages. And that's a really significant and prevalent form of bullying and harassment that's happening, and it can have some devastating effects for kids.
Why does the school need to take a role in this?
Well, I mentioned it's our job to create the caring and safe community, and so that's number one. In order for students to feel safe and to feel like they are open to learning, they have to feel psychologically, emotionally, physically safe in order to do that. And if somebody is picking on somebody in one of the classes or something like that, and they're thinking about that student and that person picking on them, or what they're saying about them, or a text message that's being spread around, or a rumor, or being stopped in the hall and tripped or something like that, they aren't thinking about geometry or adding and subtracting, or whatever the fact may be, whatever the topic may be. So there's a direct correlation between school climate and student learning.
So what is the district doing? What type of initiative is the district looking at for this?
We're doing a lot, actually, and this is the first year that we are kind of formalizing our programming. There is a drafted form of a policy that is in place right now, and that's in draft form, as I said, so that's going through the channels. And that's an anti-bullying and harassment policy that the district has worked on. We also have school planning. Each school will have different plans, and every school may look a little bit different with their plans, because each one of us is unique in some of the culture kinds of things that we have in our own building. But we do have the expectations that all of us do have, some sort of programming, formalized programming going on. It may not be bullyproofing or, some sort of, peer mediation or something like that. As I said, they're all unique, but, focusing on creating that caring school climate is something that's expected for all of us. So that's the second piece. The third piece that we have going on is the planning. We have professional development days and things that throughout the year we will focus on different bullying and harassment pieces. We're looking at how do we create professional development opportunities for every group in our school community. And that would include not only teachers. We just did a professional development day with teachers March 22nd, and that was throughout the whole district. We've done some professional development with our administrators. We've got new teacher groups that we've done professional development days with. We're looking at how do we, for planning for next year and getting this going, how do we look at groups and trainings for groups like our bus drivers and our playground supervisors and paras and paraprofessionals and different groups. Our parent community, there have been several things. I've seen them out on listserv for cyberbullying and different sexting kinds of things and different forms of bullying and harassment and things that have been options for parents to participate in. So we'll keep doing that and keep sending those kinds of opportunities out there. Parents can expect also to see some different things from schools coming home in various forms. And as I said, it looks different in each school. So throughout the years, you'll see things like relating to your school and how they're dealing with things that will come home. So the professional development piece is the third piece of that, the third component. And then the last component is we've got a group called the Creating Caring Community Committee. And so we call it the CCC committee, and those are interested individuals from all of the schools. And I think we've got representatives, at least one from each building. And so we meet once a month, and we kind of go through. Well, we've just started, so it's a new committee that's formed, and it's pretty exciting. We're looking at what are the priorities in the district and in the community, and what is it that we want to start tackling first. And we've looked at ways that we can start prioritizing that and start tackling that. So more to come on that. So those are the four components in the district.
Okay, good. No, that's very impressive. And then it's nice to see that there's a community component as well as people directly involved in the schools. But let's talk about a small piece of that. What do parents do if they find that their children are in a situation where they're being bullied? I mean, are there steps that they can take, people that they can talk to? How do they handle that? How do they help their children?
The number one thing is to continue to talk to your child. I mean, talking to our kids about what's happening in school. Sometimes we have to dig deeper and ask deep questions in order to get information. Kids who are being bullied, sometimes and ages, it differs with different ages. But sometimes kids who are being bullied are not wanting to report that happening, and there are reasons why. They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid it's going to get worse. They're afraid that nobody can help them. They may be afraid that that they're tattling on their peers or whatever it is. So there's that whole component. But continuing to ask questions and trying to get information from kids just in the casual dinner conversations or one-on-one, with asking kids how their days went and, who do you sit with at lunch and, what'd you do before school and just different questions, any little pieces that you can get. If a child is, quiet and not wanting to talk about it and having a difficult time for some reason and they're not really sure what's going on, there could be something like that going on. I wouldn't hesitate at the middle and high school level to call a counselor and just kind of probe a little bit if a parent suspects that maybe something is happening. If there's a serious situation, as administrators, we have different ways that we handle situations. We don't always you don't always know either as the parent what happened in a situation, but we handle it, and it's taken seriously because we don't want bullying and harassment to be happening. But I wouldn't hesitate to call an administrator or your principal or an assistant principal if there's something going on that you just have a question about and you're not sure, how do I handle this? What do I do? Because sometimes that's the question you talk to the counselor about or the principal about. There are some things that parents can do as well to help their child become victimized or to help their children to not become a bully, or I say a bully, I mean exhibit bullying behaviors. I don't like to call a kid a bully. But there are things that parents can do. For a student who is being bullied, it could be something like, let's practice. Let's say they've talked to you about it, what's going on. Let's practice that. What are you going to say? So what happens if you see somebody coming up? What are you going to do? What could you say the next time somebody says something like this to you? And that kid just practicing that and rehearsing what he or she could say sometimes gives them the right confidence at the moment that something might happen, that they're able to say that with a little bit more, confidence behind that comeback or that statement. With kids who may be, really trying to help kids not become kids who are exhibiting bullying behaviors, there really is a lot that can be done as well for that area. Focusing on correcting thinking errors is important for all the kids that are seeing it happen, or the kids who are being bullied, or the kids who may be bullying. Adults stepping in and changing that, helping kids to see, if somebody says, oh, he or she deserves that, stop them, talk to them about that, because nobody deserves to be treated poorly or to be ostracized or hurt in some way. So spending the time to talk to your kids about things like that is an important thing to do. If there was a situation that happened, talking to your kids about who they see being bullied at school, because sometimes kids need that extra that person to talk to about, I see so and so sits alone, and or is this happens in gym class, or this happens wherever. Talking to your child about what did you do, what did you say, and giving them those opportunities to practice that and to think about what can I do, and wow, I am empowered to do some things. And if enough of us stand up to this kind of thing, then the person who's doing the bullying will have less of a power base, and that's what we want. We want to create a caring community, and so those are some of the kinds of things that parents can do. So when kids start to realize that if we take a stand for doing the right things, and kind of speaking up and helping someone who may be being victimized or something like that, there's power in numbers kind of thing in a positive way.
Right. And my understanding is we're not doing this because we have such a problem with bullying, but because there is no level of a bullying or harassment that's appropriate. It happens, unfortunately, if I understand correctly, but it's not because suddenly we have this major problem in Huron Valley, but like I say, any level is not acceptable.
You mean why we're doing our efforts and this program and things like that?
Right.
Well, one of the things that I always start with when I do workshops in schools around the country or wherever, is I say, bullying happens in every school, everywhere, every day. And those of us who would pretend that it doesn't, it's not real. And so the question is, to what degree, how severe is it, how often is it happening, what's happening if it's done. So, there's that whole bullying is a part of growing up. There is a kernel of truth to that. It does happen. Kids try on different behaviors and things like that. But it's our job to step in, and it's our job to teach kids that this is not the way you treat people. This is not the kind of behavior that you do. Let's talk about what you could do instead, or let's talk about why that's happening. So no, it's not because suddenly we have a big problem or anything like that.
So what are the next steps? What do we do now? We've got the caring community set up. We've started some professional development. What will we see in the next month, next school year? What kind of things should we expect?
Well, the CCC group, the Creating Caring Communities group, as I said, we're prioritizing, and so we're starting to put in place what kinds of things do we want to start tackling and chip away at. The policy is in draft form, and so you may even know more about where that is at this point than I do. But we are continuing to start, to work on formalizing and kind of bringing things together so that we know and schools know things are done in a deliberate way, and there's a very designed effort in it, as opposed to it's very easy to have a good program here or a good piece in your school on an assembly on this or a good this or a good that. And when a community, within a school, when there is a group or a leadership group, an action team, whatever that looks like in each building, comes together, looks at their school improvement plans, and starts to tie these together, then it becomes intentional and deliberate. And that is where research shows us that there's the most success comes from intentional, deliberate planning, as opposed to just shot in the arm here and there, or kind of hit and miss things once in a while.
Right. And parents will see that policy. It is, as you mentioned, in draft form, and it is something that we're going to be finalizing this spring, and we'll be sharing with parents after it's approved. So they'll have a better understanding exactly of what we mean by the bullyproofing and anti-harassment, and what they can do in terms of the policy. And that policy applies to all staff as well.
Yep.
So I think we are modeling that behavior as well as helping our kids become those people that we want them to be as well. So.
Well, it's a state, there's a policy in the Department of Education, a state policy requirement for all districts to have a policy. So, we're in compliance with that policy. And, sometimes I'll get the question, so what does the policy say? If so-and-so does such and such, what happens then? And it's not calculated that way. One of the things that research also shows us is that interventions, working with kids, is a critical component. That learning piece is a critical component of growing and changing negative behaviors. So in order for policy to even be effective, if things were narrowed down to if A happens, then B is the consequence, takes away some of that opportunity for us to implement interventions and different things at the appropriate time. So it's very similar to our code of conduct, where there is leeway and option for administrators and district personnel to be working with students with the appropriate consequences. So it's not designed to freak anybody out and cause any kind of grief or something like that. It's to set the stage and the standard for here's what we expect in our schools, and that goes along with all of the things that we've been talking about.
Right. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with the audience about the bullyproofing that we're doing or what you're doing?
Well, as I said, I'm thrilled that our district is doing it in a comprehensive fashion. I feel like we've done a lot in just the short time that we've started. And sometimes it takes a while for things to get going, but the momentum for this has been wonderful. People are excited about it. When I sent out the original email saying, is anybody interested in doing this committee, I got email after email after email about people that are interested in participating, and that gives us a good working committee to sit down and look at our district, things that we have, and put things in place, and then they can go back to individual schools and work with their teams and their principals and their other staff or whoever is in their own building. So it's an exciting time.
It does sound like there is a lot going on in the district, and this is such an important topic, Jill. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us all of the things that have been going on in this area, and it sounds like there is a lot more to come, and we'll be anxious to hear more about it. And thanks to our viewers for joining us today on this edition of Focus. We hope you join us again as we have future Focus shows on a number of topics, and please continue to watch HVS-TV.